Episode number 31, 5 Secrets to Building an Incredible Team with Jim Wideman. Here we go, Tribe.
This is the Kidman Tribe podcast. We're helping you as children's pastors, volunteers, and leaders plan, create, and execute incredible, life-changing kids worship experiences at your church. With practical tips, coaching, training, and resources from the best in kids ministry around the world. It's time to join the tribe.
Hey everyone, my name is Jason Noble. I'm the host of the Kidman Tribe podcast. I'm so glad you're here today, and I can't wait to dig in with today's guest. One of the biggest responsibilities and challenges that a kids ministry leader has is building a strong team. I'm excited today. We have the one and only Jim Wideman on the podcast again to give us 5 secrets to building an incredible team. You are not going to want to miss today's episode. Jim is one of the veterans in kids ministry and has encouraged and trained kids ministry leaders for decades. Jim Wideman has a unique ability to help build the local church by strengthening the family, empowering leaders, and building great teams. He's a pastor, a speaker, author, and a ministry coach with more than 45 years of experience serving in all areas of the local church, including 17 years of leading one of the largest children's ministries in the United States. I honestly could listen to him for hours. Jim has trained thousands of children's ministry leaders in the U.S. and around the world. He's worked with 6 different thriving churches in the span of almost 5 decades, and he's published over 15 books. He currently serves as the executive operations pastor at Conduit Church in Franklin, Tennessee. Jim and his wife, Julie, have been married for 43 years, and they have 2 wonderful daughters and have 3 of the cutest grandsons around. Now, listen, I would argue, because I've got a grandson now, so we might talk about that, but definitely, you don't want to miss this podcast. It's going to give you some great tips and tools to evaluate how you're building your team, give you some ideas on how to train and equip, and really help you to dig in on building the best team that you can. Your team is who do you do kids ministry with in the trenches and will make an incredible difference. I hope you're ready for an incredible Kidman Tribe today. We're going to jump in with Jim right after this.
Hey friends, Carl Barnhill here. If you are a kids ministry leader and you need some quick visuals for your kids services, I'd love for you to check out our kids media library at 1230kids.com. We have over 10,000 pieces of media content that you can download either a la carte or through our annual subscription. We have 10 product lines of visuals, including games, mini movies, and Bible story videos, themed packs, countdowns, worship videos, social media content, and more. You can start downloading today at 1230kids.com/go for Go Unlimited. That's 1230kids.com/go.
Well, today I have a very special guest on the Kidman Tribe podcast. Jim Wideman, thank you so much for being here. A guru. I love having you on, and just say thanks for saying yes every time I reach out. And I know that it's such a blessing for our kids ministry leaders. You guys, this is a guy who just oozes leadership, who just oozes, just love for people. Yeah. And so, Jim, thank you so much for being here today. What have you been up to? What's been going on in your world?
Man, I am starting over at a brand new church that the senior pastor was one of my youth volunteers. 32 years ago. He was in Bible college as an 18-year-old helping at my church in Tulsa. And now we just stayed close and stayed in touch. And like I do with most all my Timothys. And I consulted with the church 2 or 3 times, and he found himself in the midst of crazy growth. And after the pandemic, they were one of the few churches in the area that didn't shut down. They just kept going.
Yes.
And just did great. And so I'm on staff with him as the executive pastor of ministries, and we just launched the 3rd service yesterday, and just leading the staff and team, and it's just fun. I didn't think I'd be starting over at this age, but it's sure fun, and we're enjoying every minute.
I love it. So it just hit me you call your guys Timothy's. That means you're a Barnabas?
Well, or Paul,
Okay.
one of those, just all down through there. So it's kind of great.
Well, and one of the things I think that you're so well known for that I wanted to dig into today is how do you build a good team? Because without your volunteers, without the people around you, you can't do ministry, and you can't do ministry by yourself. Most children's people think they're getting in to be the performers and be the whatever, and then they suddenly realize, like, no, actually, my job is to build a team so we can go further faster. And so, today, I wanted you to share with us 5 keys to building a good team. And I think this is one of your hallmark things that you taught. Now, one of the things before we jump into this, you just started a brand new mentorship program, kind of a new round I just saw. Is there space? Tell us how people get involved in that.
Yeah, it's just real simple. I kind of, it's kind of funny. Before there were podcasts and things, I did a tape of the month club trying to come up with something like Maxwell did just for children's guys back in the 90s. And so started doing that. And then everybody started getting the podcast. And I started just saying, hey, I'd rather be on people's podcast than do a podcast every month and all that stuff. And then somewhere in all that stuff, I started coaching, and we came up with the Infuse coaching program for kid leaders, and happened to be the first to do that. And had about 600, 700 leaders that went through that process. And then I just started doing private coaching with individuals and whole church staffs, and did that for a few years. And the Lord really put it on my heart the end of last year to go back to offer group coaching. And so up to 15 folks, anywhere from children's ministry to family folks. I've got a group going that's just XPs and senior pastors, and so working with them, and just, the things that I've learned in the last 48 years, you just want to help people learn them in just a year or so. And hopefully my ceiling will be their floor, and, just helping younger leaders. I realized probably 30 years ago that it was important to spend time with younger leaders rather than folks my age. And it's just been a blessing. And so we're going to gear up in May. We're going to, the new group will start in May. I've got about, I think, 10 more slots that aren't filled yet. And so if people want to get a hold, real simple, go to jimwideman.com, and you can contact me through that. And I'll send you the info on our Think Different coaching groups. And, everybody, I started asking all the folks that had gone through my coaching and said, what's the one thing that you think you learned while you spent time with me? And they all said the same thing. You taught us how to think different. Yeah. And so that's what we named the new groups, and Think Different Coaching. And so we're real excited. It's very affordable. And, when I told my wife what I was offering this group coaching for, she thought I'd hit my head on something, but it's very affordable from my rates as a personal coach, and just trying to make it affordable so folks can be a part of this. I'm gonna try to do about 3 different sessions this year, and so the first one will start in May, and we'll do 2 in the fall, 1 in the summer. And
That's
so it'll
awesome.
be great.
That's great. If you were to look over your lifetime of coaching and raising up leaders, what is one thing that you would say you have to hit on every time with leaders? Like, what's one area that tends to be a blind spot in leaders that you run across every time you coach them? Is there one?
Yeah. Their walk with God.
Okay.
That whole thing of you spend all your time preparing for others.
Yep.
And most of the time we forget that, you can't write checks if you haven't made deposits.
Good.
And that includes spiritually. And too many people try to float a spiritual check. And, especially in children's ministry, we miss church for a living. And, we're just giving out. And we don't take in on a regular basis. And so 100% of everybody I've coached, when they were honest with themselves and said, are you happy with your spiritual walk with the Lord and your prayer life? 100% said no.
Wow.
And so that's where we start.
Wow. And I believe that's a key to longevity. That's why we minutes are sticking in.
Yeah. I know for me, I've been through almost 50 years of ministry. Church hurt. The organization who has blessed me the most has hurt me the most.
Yeah.
And yet, I'm not going to spend my life telling little boys and girls to walk in forgiveness. And I get rid of bitterness on a regular basis. And that's what's kept me going. That's why both my daughters not only love Jesus, but they love the local church, and they're both serving in children's ministry in their local church.
It's incredible. One of the things I'm hearing a lot of lately is people are stuck in their church hurt because they refuse to forgive. I mean, so like I hear that such a, it's almost like a chorus. Every time I turn around, I hear somebody saying, well, I've been hurt by the church, and they're stuck there.
Yeah.
They're stuck. You can either choose to get stuck or move forward. So, man, great.
So I know that's not our topic.
Yeah.
Here's the thing that's crazy. When you ask people, are you bitter? Do you have any unforgiveness? Most of the time they say no.
Right.
But if you ask, what's the evidence that you don't? Are you praying for the people that hurt you? Have you prayed that their families and children will be blessed and walk with the Lord and serve? And there ought to be some sort of evidence. There ought to be enough evidence to convict you that although you've been hurt, you're walking in forgiveness.
Yeah.
And again, it's crazy.
It's so good. No, I think forgiveness is the key. And it will also help you to build a better team. I mean, it goes right along with the topic.
Yeah.
If you're harboring bitterness, you're not going to treat the people around you the way they need to be treated. You're not going to have team unity. And so let's dive into that. 5 ways to build.
Yeah. The first thing is you've got to build a leadership pipeline. Too many times we think recruiting is just making announcements or walking around just asking people to work. But there ought to be some sort of pipeline on a regular basis where new people, whether that is newcomer events, every church I've ever worked at, there's been some sort of new people's event, either a lunch or a reception or something, and coming up with ways to just gather information. I know for me, I'm spoiled these days because of technology and those kind of things. I was at a newcomer event the other day and just said, hey, if you would love to help you plug in the servant, get out your phones right now. want you to text this code to this number, and 25 people text their information, and then we just all at one time followed up since then. But whatever folks do for membership classes, I love to be the one. I volunteer to teach those things,
Right.
so that I can share vision, do those things. Small groups, meeting with small group leaders, and just saying, "Hey, who are some sharp couples?"
Yeah.
Every good salesman has to have some leads, and so being able to work along with other ministries. I work the lobbies before and after every service, before class. And this is what children's folks don't realize. You can't spend all your time back in the children's way.
No way.
You have got to be in plain sight. And that's why you build depth and teams and different folks around you, so you can be where the parents are and where adults are. And I know for me, just being at a new church, meeting all these new people, a question that I ask, every person I meet is, where are you serving?
Yep.
And finding out. And, as I meet them, I just invite them to be a part of what we're doing in the ministries that I oversee. And, it's, you look at the response, you make some notes to follow up. I use a dot card. I don't know if how many of the folks listening have used a dot card, but basically you just tap their card. It gives all their information. I give them my real cell phone number and let them know, hey, text me, call me, let's get some coffee. Let's talk about this stuff, and making those contacts. If they're over 35, you kind of have to show them how to add your contact card to their phone. But again, they see that it's there. They'll download it, but they'll not press the little button that says new contact.
Right.
And so I show them how to do that, and then and I tell them to, hey, text me, give me your information, and then we just follow up on those things. But that has to be a way of life. That whole pipeline and those things. And I always like to say, name one of the disciples that Jesus recruited at church. None of them. He was out on the road. He was doing life. He was just going through, and that's. I tell people all the time: if you act like everybody in your city already goes to your church, they eventually will.
Exactly.
I pastor them long before they ever go to the church.
Oh, I love
whether it's the lady at the service station, it's the person at the coffee shop, the folks taking my order at a restaurant. If they can learn my name, I can learn theirs, and we just start doing life.
But what you're talking about is the hard work. Like, I think that most leaders want to sit back and put out a bulletin announcement or do an announcement and expect workers to come. And it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, it's not a game of Red Rover. Red Rover, send workers right over.
Right.
That don't work. And so, I learned from Jesus. You come and follow me does not sound like a question.
Right.
And I ask people all the time, what are you doing in this church? Yep. And they'll say nothing. And I say, well, come on. Let's do this. Let's do that. Yeah.
Nobody's asked them. And I think that the biggest mistake we make is thinking people, you get up and you make an announcement, say, hey, we need help in this area. They don't even know who to get a hold of. There's no onboarding. There's no, so you've got to have that. And I challenge leaders all the time. I'm like, there's some things only you can do. There's other train people to do. So you got to figure out what you can only do. And that's recruiting people.
I mean, as much,
Yeah.
if you don't like people, you're in the wrong business.
Yeah. Cause that's really and truly, I had a guy who used to be on my staff years ago. The key word is used to. And he said, I love the ministry. I just don't like people.
Oh man.
And I said, Bob, listen, you're in for a long haul because it's all about people.
It is.
And, you do everything out of love. And, it's an honor to get to love people for Jesus. And that's really, what this is all about. Amen. The second thing is know where you could use a worker and identify folks, before you start recruiting.
Yeah.
I used to ask folks when I was teaching recruiting and conferences and say, how many of you'd like to have 100 people come up to you Sunday and say, I'd like to help you in children's ministry? Well, everybody raises their hand, and I always say, if 100 people walked up Sunday, could you put 100 people to work?
Yes.
Do you already have a job description? Do you already, again, have you identified the positions, the gifts that person needs to have? Do you know how many of each one? So where do you need depth and duplicate? And I always say, to me, building a great team is kind of like building a great sports team. Doesn't matter what sport we're playing. I can tell you who's going to win the championship. It's whoever has the most depth at key positions.
Oh, that's good.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And you can have it at my new church. They have a great first string. They really do. It is a wonderful first string. But one of the first things we've done is start developing how can we build a second and third string?
Oh, yeah.
How can we start adding those things? And so, again, you've got to identify those places. And I think that's important. If you don't have the workers, this is what I don't understand. If you don't have the workers anyway, when you come up with where you want a worker, why don't you just dream a little bit?
Yeah.
And say, well, if I need a small group leader, why don't I get an assistant, somebody to help them as well? Well, we don't have that many people. We don't have enough people right now. Might as well believe the Lord for them.
Exactly.
And the other thing they don't realize is, when it comes to paying the light bill, when it comes to doing those things, we love to quote, my God shall supply all my needs according to his riches and glory. Well, one day I realized that my people needs were part of my needs.
Yes.
And the same God that's going to help me pay the light bill is also gonna bring folks into my ministry to help get the work of the ministry done. Again, the fivefold ministry gift are to prepare God's people for works of service so the body of Christ will be built up. It's not for them to do all the work. Exactly. And so, that's
make you a rock star to be doing all.
No.
It makes you a rock star to have an incredible team that makes you look better.
Yeah. And I had somebody tell me one time that everybody is either a Beatles fan or an Elvis fan. Mm-hmm. And you can appreciate both, but who you really, really like kind of tells all the different. I'm a band guy. I'm a Beatles guy. If I'm going to play tennis, I like doubles because there's more than singles. I like everything on a team. Yancey's My daughter, some of you know her from music. She's more of an Elvis person and those kind of things, and likes working solo. But it's when it comes to ministry, I want to build a great team.
Yes.
And so that's good. The third thing is know how to work with people of different ages. For the first time in the workforce, there's 5 different generations all working together.
Yeah.
And one of the things I used to tell people to come up with policies and procedures and all these detailed things. But if you want to attract younger people, you've got to answer just 2 questions, and you need to do it in bullet points, not paragraphs, and make it simple. Policy and procedure manuals can't be more than a back and front of 2 pages. And if you can do it, a back and front of 1, you're going to be able to get Gen Z.
That's something completely different than how we were raised.
Yeah. In ministry, I used to have 105-page worker manual.
Yeah.
That I gave people in the 90s and the 2000s. And today, there's just 2 questions you got to be able to answer. What do you want me to do? And how do you want me to do it?
That's good.
And it's bullet points, and you need to understand how to work with younger people. And, it's so important. Again, that's number 3.
I would say this to throw in. There's a certain point as a children's pastor that you become a trainer for the next children's pastor coming in.
Oh yeah.
You're not looking at that. You're not doing your job. I mean, I think about you in your mid-30s is when that kind of makes that switch to be like, okay, I've got to start pouring my life into the next person coming in who has the energy and who has, all of that.
Yeah. Well, if you look at 1 Peter, we all know, feed the flock of God that is under your care, serving as an overseer.
Yeah. And
really the job description of anybody in the ministry, if it's kids ministry, small groups, whatever, is we're feeders, we're caregivers, and we give oversight.
Good.
And all 3 of those people can help you. Yep. People can help you with the feeding. Now, they can't do it as well as you can, but there was a time you couldn't do it as well as you could. And somebody lets you sorry all over a group of kids and learn how to teach and get better. And you have to return the favor. And I think that is so important.
So good.
And so again, learn how to work with younger people and structure your policies and procedures for that.
That's good.
And I think that's important. The 4th thing, and this is what I've talked to more leaders who spend all their time getting work done, but they don't allow any time to spend with people.
That's good.
And what I think is happening because of all this high tech that everybody deals with, it calls for high touch.
Yes.
High tech requires high touch. And so that's why I think you need at least a day a week to spend time checking in on folks.
Yes.
Meeting up with key leaders. And it all starts with how are you doing?
Yes.
Not talking about what they could do better. In fact, Jason, when I parented by catching my kids doing things right.
Oh, I love that.
I would, when they were teenagers, I didn't show up at places they told me they were going after youth group to see if they were there. I showed up and blessed. I'd pick up the check for them and their friends, and just write a little note on their car. Thanks for being where you said you'd be. Thanks for choosing great friends. Thanks for hanging out with folks that build you spiritually. And you can either spend all your time telling people what they need to do better, or you can thank them for who they are and what they do and the difference they make in children's lives.
And that right? I mean, like that.
Oh yeah,
coming alive, process where you pour positive. That's so good.
Yeah, and just spending that time with key leaders. Jesus was never too busy for Peter's dumb questions. Yeah. Not one time when the disciples asked him a question after teaching all day in the hot sun without air and a PA. Not one time do we see in the Bible, "Oh, shutteth thou uppest," or "Get away from me, thou dumb idiot." It's not in the Bible, and that's the thing that we have to have a love and a level of just spending time with key folks, because that's really what discipleship is all about.
Yep.
And so it's good. And then the other thing is, all your meetings don't need to be informational.
Yes.
They need to be social. They need to be team building. They need to be inspirational. They need to be a time of just praying for them and their families future and their kids' destinies. And
so good.
When was the last time you looked at a worker and said, "What can I be praying for you this week? What can I be praying for your family? How can I?" And those are the folks that are going to be there over the long haul.
It's good.
And the folks that know they're cared for.
Your volunteers have to know they're cared for, I mean, and like I was always saying, it's an old saying, we always live by it. They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I think
and that's the truth. It's the truth. And then the last thing is, have a plan, an action plan to raise the skill level of those you lead. And simple thing that we started doing years ago at Church on the Move is the third Sunday of every month, everybody, all the assistants taught, the assistant praise and worship leaders led worship. It wasn't a time for the main teacher, the main worship leader to take off. It was their time to coach and mentor and encourage those folks. And they all taught and got some playing time. I've never seen a children's ministry that stinks so bad that you can't have a week that folks are learning and growing.
That's so good.
The kids will give you grace. Yeah. And then on the fifth Sunday, just happens a few times a year, that's where you get a true freshman and let them have some playing time. Somebody that's never taught before. And that's where you start developing that third string. And rather than do the whole lesson, have parts of the lesson where people get to try and do things and coach. And we use the first and second and third weeks to let different people have just segments. Maybe it's the welcome, maybe it's the review time, maybe it's they do the offering lesson.
That's so good.
But that main lesson and altar call on the third Sunday and the fifth, that's where I'm developing those other folks. And that's how when you when you start a new service or you're starting a new campus somewhere, you've got folks with some playing time, and really starting a new service isn't a bad thing. It's the best thing in the world because it's causing people to have their own class and their own ministry, and just, multiplication is better than addition. And people don't want to come and watch you teach camps. They want to be involved in that discipleship process. And so those are just 5 simple little things.
Time builds confidence, which is the biggest
a
leader needs, is confidence to get up on the stage. I mean, we had a kids worship team, and half the time we'd have the kids up on the stage unplugged, just playing to build confidence. I mean, and I think that's the same with adults. Building the confidence is so important.
Yeah. And it's too, seeing your role. You can't be so busy on a Sunday morning dotting I's and crossing T's and running around setting up stuff that you can't just talk to people.
That's good.
And just loving on them, talking to folks and showing that you care. It's just got to become a way of life.
It's so good. And that's how you build a team. I mean, you build a team because people know you care. You're going to be in there training them and equipping them. They're not going to just get thrown to the wolves. I mean, what a great, man, today you've shared some incredible wisdom. Thank you so much for what you shared. I mean, those are keys to building a good team. So if you're just starting out, go back and listen to this again, because man, team is where it's at. And so is there anything you'd like to leave our leaders with today, Jim?
I think the main thing is just, start taking your time off. Jason and I were talking beforehand, and I've just finished a sabbatical where I was kind of forced to rest because of some health things that I fought in, 2022 going into this new year. And start taking a Sabbath, whatever you do. And spend that time just resting. And, if you take a little while longer to get certain stuff done, it's okay. Develop that marathon over a sprint mentality. And, that's even building a team. It's one of those things. My new pastor, he's been gone for 2 weeks, and he came back in, and I said, have I been moving slow enough? Now, most people would ask just the opposite.
Yeah.
But I knew for me to learn the pace, learn the rhythm, learn the people, and, everybody thinks the new guy's going to come in and change everything, throw the baby out with the bathwater. And it's just one of those things that you've got to move slow.
Yep.
And love on people as you go. And, you've got to learn how to rest. It's important.
And if you don't, God will put you into a spot where you're sometimes forced to.
Yeah.
That was the sabbatical, and it's a good thing to learn. We were talking about the Sabbath, one of the only commandments we break all the time, and we feel like we're good with that, and it's almost celebrated in our culture. And so I think that's one of those areas that I think, very much so. I apologize to on my cell phone. It's like the people that get caught in church. So I apologize for that. But
no problem at all. It's one of those things that while we're talking about cell phones, give them a bedtime.
Yes.
If people expect you to be on 100%, then you need to be paid like you're on for 100%.
Right. Exactly.
And if you're not paid like you work 100% of the time, then give that thing a bedtime. Learn to take it off when you're eating dinner. Have a basket everybody can put their phones in, and develop some no-fly zones in your house.
Good.
And for your family, and learn how to turn the silent button on. It's my favorite button on the phone.
It is. Do not disturb. Do not disturb is an incredible on those phones, on the phones.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, hey, will you pray for our leaders today and wrap us up?
Yeah. Yeah. Lord, thank you for just the wonderful privilege that you give us to lead. And Lord, thanks for including us, allowing us to be your hands and feet, to do the work of the ministry. Thank you for calling us. Thank you for just equipping us. Thank you for empowering us today. And Lord, I just thank you that, Lord, you came and showed how to build a great team.
Yes,
with what you did, and in your earthly ministry here. And so, Lord, thank you that, Lord, we can build a great team through you. And we ask you to guide and lead and help us to have the best workers for your kingdom's sake we ever had, as we apply some of these principles. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you again, Jim, for being on. Make sure you check out jimwideman.com. Sign up for those coaching groups. I think that they're the best thing you could do. And we'll catch you next time here on the Kidman Tribe podcast. See you later, Jim. Thank you.
We would love to hear from you. What are some of the thoughts, questions, ideas you would like to hear more about? You can submit your thoughts and questions to thekidmantribe.com/mailbag. And be sure to share this podcast with everyone you know.
Man, you can do it. You can build an incredible team. Those tips that Jim gave us today are awesome. Thank you so much for being a part of the Kidman Tribe podcast. Thank you for listening every time we come out with a new podcast. I want to encourage you, if you have not yet subscribed to the platform, our channel on the platform that you're listening or watching the podcast, do that today. Go and like the channel, subscribe, give us a high five, give us a good rating. We want to hear from you. Also, share it with every Kidman leader you know. I ask you that every week. Keep doing it. Let's make this a resource. If you love what's going on here, make it a resource for everybody you know. Also, leave a comment, leave a review, help us to move up the rankings in our podcast. You can find us at our online home, kidmantribe.com, where you'll find our podcast, all of the back editions. You'll also find a bi-weekly blog that you're going to want to check out. There's some great Kidman Tribe swag, some great resources there to give to your volunteers. Man, I want to say thanks again for being a part, but I'd also love to hear if you have questions or input on future Kidman Tribe podcast topics. I would love to hear from you. You can submit your ideas, your thoughts, your comments, and questions to the Kidman Tribe mailbag by going to kidmantribe.com/mailbag. That's kidmantribe.com/mailbag. Hey, preteen ministry is one of the most important ministries and age groups in our churches that we need to have exciting and incredible ministries. When I was a children's pastor, I loved working with our preteens. I'm excited to welcome on the show in 2 weeks a good friend and someone who has been a passionate advocate for preteens. Sean Sweet is a 25-year passionate advocate for preteens who serves as a dual role as the preteen pastor at Destiny Church in Rockland, California, and the community director of 456.org, which educates and trains and resources preteen ministry leaders around the world. I'm excited to introduce you to a friend who I've known since he started in ministry, and it's been so incredible to watch him walk that out. He's going to challenge you to rethink how you're ministering to your preteens in your church and in your community, and really help you to dig in. That's in 2 weeks. You don't want to miss the Kidman Tribe podcast. Man, welcome to summer. I hope your summer is off to a great bang. Make sure that you're taking time out for yourself. I want to encourage you, don't forget your Sabbath. It's so important. We're running to kids camps. We're running to all of these things in the summer, vacations, but make sure that you take some time out in Sabbath to really find out what God's calling you to do for this fall. I want you to know you're loved, you're appreciated. I know sometimes it feels like you're in the back room and nobody sees what you're doing, but you are changing lives for eternity. I'm your biggest fan. I'm cheering you on always. You are my heroes. Go get them, Tribe. I'll catch you in 2 weeks here on the Kidman Tribe podcast. Enjoy your summer.
The Kidmin Tribe podcast is a production of 1230 Kids. For show notes, archive episodes, and more free resources for your kids' ministry, visit kidmintribe.com.